Hello YouTube, name is O. I'm here today to show you my Dutch bucket system that I did, DIY version. Nothing too spectacular. A little background on myself. I've been growing stuff, or got into gardening at least maybe I'd say a year ago. I've have one bed over here on the side of the house, and I have a couple out back. I've been somewhat successful at that, but I really got tired of hauling dirt and manure around the backyard and just digging holes and just having to weed stuff. That's just a big pain in my butt, and I'm just tired of that. So I started this hydroponic system to make my life a little easier because all I gotta do is just change out the nutrients and it's a go. So growing in this system, I have 3 red bell peppers, and I'm in Central Florida, so they're not looking too hot because of this heat. It's just so hot down here in the Central Florida area. It's ridiculous. It did cool down a little bit today, but I'm having some issues with the tote where it's just getting too hot no matter what I insulate it with. I throw ice in the morning and then I insulate it to see if it'll stay, even though it gets sun half a day, but it's just the air gets so hot. It's ridiculous. So these plants already have had some stress uh, to them. So you can see even some of the stems. I don't know if this is a nutrient situation here. Maybe somebody out there can see this video and help me out. But the stems are getting a little darker there, and the leaves are starting to change a little color. That might be a nutrient situation, but we'll see how that goes. I also have 2 homestead tomatoes. They're doing pretty well. They did have some issues with the heat. As you can see, some of these leaves are pretty wilted. So they did have some issues, but overall they're coming back. So we'll see how this goes. These are homestead tomatoes. These first two, and this is a cherry tomato tree. Got some cherries coming in, some tomatoes, looking good there. And I've been only doing this for almost 2 months. Started in a DWC bucket over here, which is the same container I'm using for the reservoir, and that was successful. But they were getting a little too big, so I decided to build this, and hopefully it'll work out. I decided to use a hybrid of 2 systems, or there's 2 guys on YouTube that I really enjoy their videos. One is MHP Gardener, a lot of people know him, and Mean Shoes. They have some great Dutch bucket systems. So I kind of did a mixture of both, and hopefully this type of system might help somebody out there to make their lives easier. Hopefully they can do something similar, and I'm just trying to pay it forward, what I learned from these guys, and give it out to other people. So I'm going to walk you through the system here. Nothing really spectacular. Started off with this pump down here. Now I definitely went overkill with the pump. This is a Lifeguard Quiet 1 pond and aquarium pump. This pumps 594 gallons per hour. Has like 10 feet of head height. I mean, it's definitely a monster pump. It's a little too much for the system, especially when it's only 6 buckets. You can definitely do this with something way smaller. This I found cheap online. 30 bucks. Retails usually for like 80. So I was lucky to get my hands on this. And eBay has some great deals out there if you just look around. But the plan with this pump is to make it bigger. So I got it big, so if I wanted to go big, I can. And then I'll show what I did to alleviate some of the pressure that this pump would create. So I'll show that later. So here's the pump. As you can see at the bottom, it has a 3/4 outlet on the top that connects to a 3/4 tube, clear tube that I just found in my garage laying around. Oh, another thing I want to let you know is that I do everything cheap. I don't like to spend a lot of money, especially now since I'm having a baby. So everything that I'm going to talk about is this whole system. I don't even think hit $200. It was very cheap. So again, back to the pump. Sorry, I'm ADD that way. This is a poly connector, 3/4 down here, 1/2 inch female, threaded, that goes to a 1/2 inch threaded male PVC connector. So that's how I was able to create the connection between these two. Then I just had PVC laying around. The reason why I'm using PVC is because it was free. Some of it I just had laying around the house that was left here from when I bought the house. So that kind of worked out for me great. Then I have an elbow that connects to the first 4-way drip head. You can find this at Home Depot, Lowe's, in the sprinkler section. So will you find this tubing, which I think was 10 or 7 bucks for like 50 feet, which is more than enough than I needed here. So I might use the remaining tubing to create a rail system later. But there it is. It's a 4-way head. Works great. I have a T down there that connects to the tube with the, I guess with the, this tube that connects to the sprinkler head or the drip head. And these cost like 4 bucks at Home Depot, so they're not that expensive. Again, I'm cheap. Sorry. Then I have a male threaded head here that connects to this female thread in here. I did glue everything together, and I did put Teflon in the threads just to keep everything, you know, leak free. I had to do that because I had everything just placed together initially, and it was just leaking. Here's the second one, same setup. And then back here, I just have a little UE going on, just 2 90s that come back this way and drain back into the tote. Now the reason why I didn't cap it off at one end was due to the pressure of the pump. I didn't want to create a lot of back pressure on the pump because those 6 drip lines aren't enough to release the pressure. So I have this return line that comes back into the tote, which is actually great when I want to empty it because I just connect another connector that I created for this valve here, and then I just drain it out. So it makes my life a little easier. I don't have to bend my back and hurt myself. So that's that. And then here we have a valve. Now the reason why I put a valve at the end is I didn't know how much pressure I was going to be able to create if I just let it freely flow through the system at the drip line. So to create just a little bit of pressure, so I get enough water coming out of the drip lines, I can control that with this valve. So that's why it's like a little bit, just a little bit closed, just to create that little extra pressure, but not a lot to where it's going to damage the pump. So it has 2 functions. It's pretty much a pressure valve, but also a drain valve. So it's kind of cool. Now back to the draining system. This is a 2-inch PVC tube, or pipe, whatever you want to call it. And I think it cost me 7 bucks for like 10 or 8 feet. I think it's 10 feet. And to be honest, that and this clean out valve here were the most expensive parts of the drainage. But I decided to put a clean out valve instead of capping it just because it would be easier to clean. And if I want to add any additional tubes, I already have this piece here. I can just take this out and just add another tube and then just put this back in on the other end if I wanted to make this bigger. So that's that. And again, I'm using wood bits to make these holes. I have a wooden bit that's 7/8 wide for this half tube. It is not the cleanest cut, as you can see. It is quite jagged. Not the prettiest thing on the world, but it makes a hole. So that kind of, I just had that laying around. I didn't want to spend the extra 12 bucks to buy a hole saw, but I would recommend getting one because it's just the cuts aren't pretty, and they're quite jagged, and if you want to create a nice seal, you might want to use a hole saw. So there is an incline to the drain. I just put a bucket at the end. And speaking of buckets, I got all these buckets for free. Yes, free. The way I did it was I just ended up going to my local supermarket and went to the bakery section and asked for their fudge and cream cheese buckets, which they will gladly give away due to them having to clean it and then throwing them away. They always throw them away, at least at the local supermarkets here that I went to. In one day, I went to 2 places and I got 11 buckets. And some were, I only got one 5-gallon. These are 3 gallons that I'm using here. I have another 3 of those white ones, and then I have a couple of those little ones you see far over there. They were happy to give them to me because they don't have to clean them. I mean, they're all dirty. They had fudge in them and cream cheese, but I was happy to clean that out for free buckets. Now, if you go to MHP Gardner's YouTube channel, he has a tutorial on the buckets on how to make a Bato Dutch bucket. And I use his tutorial to make this one. And it's very similar to his, where I just, there's some pieces there. Grab a little piece of PVC with a 3/4 grommet. Now I wasn't able to find this at Lowe's. If you're successful to finding them at Home Depot, but I couldn't find this at Lowe's. I had to go to my hydroponic store, which is luckily 5 minutes away. Urban Sunshine. Shout out to them. They're cool people. And they had a bunch of these grommets there, which worked out great. So this is a 3/4 grommet. I made a 1-inch hole and just put a PVC tube right through it, and then 2 elbows on each end. Total, I think, was like $1.10, between the little elbows and the grommet. And I got a Bato bucket, or a Dutch bucket, and it worked out great. So I have a couple more that I've kind of prepped with the grommet and these little tubes here. So that's when I want to go bigger. So we'll see how that goes in the future. But there it is, 3 buckets. Go to your supermarket bakery and make that happen. So the cool thing about these 3-inch buckets is that you can use this in the future if you want to go bigger with your net pots. You can maybe get one of these. These are fairly cheap. You can get this for maybe, I think, I've seen them online for like $1.60, and then you can just take this one out and just plop this one in there, and you can get a bigger net pot. Now the reason why I decided to just put 3-inch net pots in here instead of filling it up with media was because these were already inside another tote that I had in a DWC system, which is this one here, as you can see. But this was too small and it's very flimsy, didn't hold the plants right. So I decided to do the system, and the roots were already very tangled within the net pot, so I didn't want to yank them out and hurt the roots. So I decided to keep them in the net pots and just make a hole on the lid in the future if I wanted to go with a bigger net pot, which that might be another option for those people who don't want to use perlite or a lot of their hydroton. They like prefer their hydroton and they don't want to use it. You can make a bigger hole with just a jigsaw, and then you can put in maybe an 8-inch pot in here and then use a drip line for that. I'm just using these. We'll see how that goes. If there's an issue with the growth or the roots or whatever, I'll switch them out and we'll see how. But I'll starting off with these and see how that goes. Hopefully they'll grow okay and the roots get bigger and it'll all be fine. It is somewhat of a, how should I say, a deep water culture type setup with the drip, so maybe you can call that a hybrid. I'm going to open this bad boy up. You can see the roots in there, a little brown from the heat, but the ones in the water are doing alright. So you can see there's somewhat of a, I'd say maybe a good inch of water at the bottom where the roots can kind of chill and hang out. The water, which is weird, the water that comes out of the buckets through the drain is cooler than the one that's coming out of the pump, or that's circulating. So I don't know what's going on there. I've touched the pump doesn't get that hot. It's actually made to stay cool. I keep a thermometer in there at night and it doesn't overheat. It actually stays at the same temperature. It's just when the sun hits in the morning, it just gets a little too hot. So if anybody sees this video out there, please provide some comments, some feedback on how to help me, how to get the temperature down, and maybe we can go from there and make this a better system. So there it is, guys. Dutch bucket system, hydroponics, growing veg. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post. If you want to subscribe, I'll be putting more of these videos up on my other hydroponic systems. I have some plastic totes that I'm going to make boxes for, and I'll be doing a crack key method there. I'm going to be putting those over here. I'm going to clean all this crap up and be making I'm going to do tables. I don't want them on the ground because there's too many bugs here. Hopefully I can make some tables and then keep them up there away from the dirt. Just trying to avoid the weeds and all that other crap too. So we'll see how that goes. There it is, guys. Hope you all enjoy. And I forgot to show you guys how the system actually works. So I'm actually going to plug it in and show you guys how the water's flowing. So I'm going to do this one hand. Sorry for the shoddy editing. But the pump goes in, turns on, water comes out the other way. I'm not using any air stones because just the crashing of the water on the onto the tote is creating a lot of bubbles, as you can see. We'll see how that goes. That might be maybe one of the issues I'm having. Maybe I'm just not seeing it right now, but there it is, guys. Dutch bucket system, and then you can see it starts draining. There it is.